Winter Camp. And we ran a little bit behind this season. So this week is our last week of Winter Camp presentations. I know today's the spring equinox. I've already heard some meadowlarks, which I'm very excited that spring is here. But we came together to think about winter camps and the way that this programming reimagines the model of problem solving and community building in today's world. And we do this by examining deeper cultural roots in the way that Oceti Sakowin relatives interact and view the world around us. So if you're unfamiliar with Racing Magpie, we're a Lakota-centric arts and cultural organization founded in Mini-Luzaha, Otumahe, and we work with Lakota, Dakota, Nakota artists in the region and also lift up community organizations by supporting them through our organizing. So without further introduction, I wanted to pass to Uniting Resilience, and we're here with Muffie Mousseau. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation today. I think Uniting Resilience has done some really amazing work in the region and advocating on behalf of Indigenous, queer, and Two-Spirit communities, and also organizing the first ever Two-Spirit powwow, which happened last summer. And I'm really excited to be here with Muffie. And I will turn it over to you so you can properly introduce yourself.
How mitakiapi, wopila tanka for that introduction. Chante washte na api. To each and every one of you, a warm, heartfelt handshake to each one of you. Chanupa mani we munchiapi. I am walks with the pipe woman. My colonial name is Monique Muffie Mousseau. I'm the co-owner, co-founder of Uniting Resilience. I'm also the executive director. We just recently, my wife and I, Felipa De Leon Musso, we've been together. We celebrated in December our 18-year anniversary. We're going on 19 years of our unionship. I just want to say wopila to everybody, and I'm so happy that we got to do what we're doing. It's amazing, and I still haven't. I don't feel like we've accomplished anything, and I know it's a lot of hard struggle work, but yeah, we're looking forward to trying to meet the needs and provide the safe space. And we just recently opened up our office here in Rapid City on leap year, February 29th. So yeah, here I am. Thanks for that introduction. Appreciate that.
Cool. Muffy, if you want to just kind of give us a background story of how you all got started, what spurred your, what I would call activism, but I know it's probably just a call to support community. But if you just want to share a little bit of your background story.
Hey, wow. It's gonna take many, many hours, but
we got some time.
I'll condense it. But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Racing Magpie for holding these winter meetings on Zoom. We all became accustomed and had to figure out Zooming since COVID. So yeah, I'm in my mid-50s, and I still can't handle a lot of things, but technology. But me and my wife became very, very aware of our situation, which a lot of people want to, in a colonial sense, say, homophobia. And, you don't realize those words until you're in them. And so we, became attracted to each other in 2005, and we started going out, and, 2006 came along. It was late 2005 we got together, and early 2006 we were very aware of our own internal violencing, our own people being homophobic and not wanting us together. And so, we had to make a choice. Choice at that moment was we found each other on the res. We're both res chicks, district res chicks. And a lot of people know what that means when my generation will know what district chicks means, our district people. So we grew up there. I met her when I was 36 years old. Just hit that brick wall, just everything and all. And, you know, the choice was easy because, you know, that's what when you find love, when you find who you're supposed to be with, there's nothing you wouldn't do. And we went through a lot of experiences and decisions, and that prompted us to go about all of what we've done. So in 2005 to 2009, we experienced some horrific trauma and bashing, gay bashing, very extreme violences inflicted on not just us, but our families that are on the res. So we decided in 2009 to move, and we left forever. And we said, that's it, sayonara, goodbye, reservation life, goodbye, tribe, you know, and I'm a big tribal person. This flag has been with me in many rodeos. I've carried this flag right here in many rodeos, and it was given to me when I was in high school. So it actually just has 8. I think at the time there was only 8 teepees. Now there's 9 teepees, I guess, on the new flag, because somebody had pointed that out to me. They said, hey man, how come your flag only has that? And I'm like, well, I got it when I was in high school. So just realize that, you know, I was you know, very athletic. I was in the rodeo, basketball, everything. You know, I did everything I could. Golf, you know, I'm a big golfer because of my dad. And meeting homophobia on a different term with your own people was hurtful, very hurtful and impactful in our life, where we had to leave and just say goodbye to that tribal, you know, the prison camp lifestyle, and which is reservation lifestyle. And we moved to Albuquerque, which was so fantastic. I'm still trying to get my wife to move there, but we were there for 3 years, and then our car broke down, so I had to get a really good job. So I moved up into North Dakota, and in 2012 we moved to North Dakota to the oil boom that was happening at that time. And we lived in North Dakota for 5 years. And, you know, I got a new car, got everything. And we, you know, everything was, we just never came back to the reservation because of that homophobia. The only time we came back was if one of our family members had passed away, and we'd come back and then just leave again. So it was a very traumatic experience to understand how vicious our people became because of colonization, and just realize that it hasn't always been as open-minded as it has become. And I know elders before me in their 60s and 70s even experienced worse traumas than what my wife and I have experienced. And we're doing stuff right now because in, you know, flashback to 2006, you know, when you're getting on the internet, I think it was Wikipedia at the time or Yelp or something. It wasn't Google, but at that time, when you go in and try to find any resources or people around your area that were LGBTQ, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender or queer, you couldn't, it would switch you to San Francisco, California, Los Angeles, or New York. And it would show like the Stonewall and, you know, Matthew Shepard happened during that time when me and my wife were together. So just realize that there wasn't a lot of anything in the Midwest for anybody that was Native, anybody that looked like us. And so at the time, I had long hair with braids because that was the colonial version of a female, of a woman. And I was supposed to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen cooking. So there was a lot of, you know, things that colonial did to our people. And so that's contributing to, you know, the boarding school traumas that we already all have DNA with, and we're all hurt already from that. Then adding to that, this religious factor of you need to be a woman and you need to be barefoot in the kitchen pregnant. And so those were some very, very harsh things that were happening. And at the time, we just said, that's it, we're not going to put up with it. And we left. And we didn't come back just for funerals. Now in 2016, that all changed for myself and impactful. My dad and mom are very important to this relationship. You know, Felipa, my wife, her mom, I just recently met her dad, but her mom did not approve of our relationship. So that was a very, very hard thing. You know, she couldn't rely on her family support. My dad and mom really stepped up in this relationship from the very beginning and really supportive. So, you know, they really have a big impact in everywhere we went. You know, they would send boxes, care packages to us everywhere we went, and they couldn't travel to New Mexico, but they traveled to North Dakota when we lived there. And that's what made the difference. In 2016, you know, my mom and dad had come up to stay with us for about, they said about a couple days, and here it turned out to be they stayed a whole week. And I was really close with my mom. And, you know, at the time, I never thought that I would be here without my mom. And, you know, she sat down and really talked with me and said, you know, I want you to move back closer to Porcupine if you can. You know, you don't have to come back to the res, at least move to Rapid City. That's where all my doctor's appointments are. And, you know, that was really, that was the changing moment in this activism, because, you know, we didn't have any intention of ever coming back around this territory at all because of the hurt that we had experienced from our own people. And my mom had said, you know, I'm not going to be here long, and I want to see all my girls. I'm part of, she has 4 daughters, and I'm the middle child. I'm the second oldest. And then there's 2 younger ones, 2 younger sisters, but we were all off on our own. And she was going to each one of us and asking us to move closer so she could see us. And at that point in my life, and me and Felipa's life, you know, she really, became the mother of Felipa as well. And really, you know, Felipa would go to her, you know, if we got into it or something, and it was really it was a good experience. But at the same time, for me to see and have your hero ask you to come back and watch them die, that was the turning point in this activism completely. And, you know, we knew who we were. I knew who he was, and grew up with our culture. You know, my mom's side of the family, the Big Owls, really grew up and invested and enriched in all of the culture and the stories and the ceremonies, and you know, really getting involved in knowing Mother Earth. We're here for one purpose, and that's to protect Mother Earth. That's what my grandparents on my mom's side had invested in me. And so for her to bring that, you know, to come back, she said, I want to see you. And so this was 2016, and we didn't want to leave our good jobs in North Dakota, but we did. We left them and came back to minimum wage jobs. You know, I'm highly educated, my wife's highly educated, and everybody knew us as, we've never been in the closet on our relationship. We've never hid it from anybody. We've always been out. And the most important part of that is, you know, we were in that colonial, let's make that payment. We got to get the car payment. We got to get the insurances. We got to do all this and that. But so we came back and we decided, you know, since we couldn't get good jobs, we settled for minimum wage jobs, and we had 1 vehicle. So I took the night job at overnight stalker and at Walmart, and my wife took a day job of a call center. And so that's how we operated. That's how we met our colonial bills. And at that point, you know, people started finding out we were back, And we were getting calls throughout our entire relationship. You know, when we were in New Mexico, when we were in North Dakota, people would find us on Facebook and say, you know, this happened on the res, this happened over here, this bullying, this suicide, this murder, you know, different things. And people would call us, you know, I'm having trouble with my partner. Do you guys have any people you can refer us to? Because there's no gay, lesbian, bisexual, there's no now the term is two-spirit. There's no two-spirit counselors. There's no LGBTQ counselors around. So do you guys know of anybody? And at the time, no, we didn't. We knew of some white counselors that helped us. They were in Minnesota, and we'd only have to use the internet, you know, to make contact with them, our phone calls and stuff like that. So resources were very limited for any Native American two-spirit people. And so it's important to realize that there's a lot of change that happened because my mother came and seen me in 2016. And at that point, we came back, we hustled and did what we had to do here. You know, we sobered up in the process. You know, we're going on, I think it's 9 years now, or 8 years. 2016, we became completely alcohol and drug free. I've never done drugs my entire life, except for surgeries. You know, I had gallstone surgery and they used drugs there, but I only used them for a day and then toughed it out the rest. But so it's important to be spiritually competent and know, and that's when all that energy that we were running from started coming back, or coming and growing even more. And I'm talking about, you know, the spiritual energy that we need to stand up and do something. And you know, we were taking these calls, we were taking these messages from Facebook, and you know, people would come into my job. And remember, I worked at an overnight, so my actual lunchtime was at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I had people outside my job, two-spirit people, LGBTQ from different reservations in South Dakota and around, that would wait for me to tell me, you know, you were a good cop, Muff, you should come back and do this. You should come back and you know, do something, because, you know, gay people are getting horrifically traumatized and bashed and everything on our reservation. And I said, you know, who am I? And that's a big thing. You know, I would talk to my mom and I'm like, you know, they want me to come back there. What do you think about that? And she said, you know, you got to be who you are. And you know, this, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't even 50 yet when I asked her those questions. You know, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? You know, I got to be who I am. And I'm like, I am who I am. And she said, no, you're not. You know, be who you are. And so that's important. You know, my mom really, and now thinking about it, wow, you know, those were some very changing teachings. And so, you know, they knew it, she knew it, and I just had to get it. And, you know, at that point, 2018 came around, and you know, middle of, like, I think it was like July, there was this horrific you know, one of the aunts of a two-spirit came to us and you know, said, you know, my child was bashed at the school and they committed suicide because the counselor told them, you know what, we don't want to deal with this kind of, you're not in existence and you need to stop being that way, and it's just a phase. I mean, who says that to younger people? It's just a phase. And this is a counselor at one of the big schools on the reservation, Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And so I told her, I said, you know, what am I going to do if I come back there? What are you thinking? She said, you were a good cop, Muff. Everybody's saying that you were a good cop. You know, my grandma told me you know, you used to stop in and she'd get you coffee. And I did. I went to a lot of the elders' house when I was a cop for 9 years on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And I told her, I said, I just don't know what I can do or what I can offer. I don't know what we're supposed to do. And at that point, you know, me and my wife would sit there and cry. You know, I'd bring her these stories in the morning because I'd see her for half an hour and then she had to buzz off to work. And then in the evenings where, you know, I'm getting ready and I'd head off to work. So it was horrific. It was horrific. And these stories just kept building. These people would keep bringing their, you know, atrocities and horrific abuse by our own people on the reservation. And, you know, I would ask my mom, you know, they think because I was a good cop, I can do something, you know. And she said, well, you just need to be who you are, Muff. And you're gonna, you know, grow into that. You have to know. I didn't know. I really, and I'm knowing now. I'm actually knowing now what it's about. And, you know, I think she infused my spine with diamonds and gold, you know, just toughened it up with all of these things that starting to embrace where we were at, and we were here. And like I said, in 2018, and I told Felipe, I said, you know, I'm going to quit my job and go back and try to figure this out. And she said, okay, but one of us has to work because we still have to pay the bills. And I'm like, okay. And she said, but just let's make it to get our washer and dryer paid off. So yeah, we just had gotten a washer and dryer. So I said, all right, well, I'll continue to work. And so we worked until I think it was January came around, and we were like 2 payments away from paying that off. And there was this one really bad story that came to me at my job. You know, she followed me around while I was doing my overnight stocking, because at the time Walmart was 24/7. They were open all night. So people would come in all through the night, and she came in and she said, you know, Muffie, I need to talk to you. Something happened. And I'm like, oh, you know, my lunch is at 2 a.m. and I can meet you in the front. She said, okay, I'll walk around till then. And this was like about 11. And, you know, I went out, grabbed my little sack lunch, and I went out to the front, and she was there. And we sat there, and she told me this horrific thing, and it had to do with police. You know, our own cops were going in and raping lesbians, raping them straight, is what they were laughing about and saying. And that just hurt, because, you know, I was a cop. I was a federally certified police officer on our reservation for 9 years. And that doesn't feel good to know that. And this person said, you know, my grandma told me to find you and tell you this. And this was a lesbian, and this person, her partner got raped by a cop, and nobody believed her. And they let her out, and she went and they went on you know, got addicted, went into meth, and you know, just so bad. And they were the cop was actually stalking the other partner and making them shut up and trying to silence them and bullying them, so, and shaming them. And I told her, I said, you know, I'm not a cop. I'm an overnight stalker. You know, I have my headband on, sweating, and I got my, you know, overnight stocking clothes on. And it's like, okay, you know. And I went home that next morning, told Felipa, we just cried, because that was horrific. Is a lot more to that story than I'm telling you. But, you know, at that point, I told Felipe, I said, there's 2 more payments, and then that's it. I'm going to quit, and I'm going to figure out what to do. So we did, you know, January, February, March, I quit my job. So I was off my work for a whole week, you know. And then that following Monday, I told Felipe, I said, you know, she said, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And at that point, it was 2019, March. And I told her, I'm going to go to the tribe. I don't know what I'm going to do. I started calling some of my old buddies, but police officers who are no longer on the reservation, they're working in other places in the United States. And, you know, one of them told me, I said, what do you think I can do? And they said, well, the best thing is to go to the Attorney General's office and find out. You know, the AG will probably, you know what to do. And you just tell him everything you're telling me, you know, just put it all out there. And so I did, I drove down and you don't even know how hard that is. I've been away from the tribe at that point for 10 years. It was 2009 we left, and this was 2019. And, going back to do something, I don't know, and so I dropped her off, kissed her, and she said, I'm going to call you every couple hours because what's going to go on? If something happens, you call me right away. And at that point, we didn't know how to, what was going to happen because, if we could rely on the tribal police to even protect me, so that was a big fear. That was a big fear factor. And I drove out of here, if you know Rapid City, before you get to Hermosa, not even 15 miles away, I had to pull over and, and I'm just going to be mild on everything, but I was, dry heaving, had to stop the car and, my stomach, and I couldn't, I wasn't throwing up anything, but that fear of going and facing something that you don't know anything about and how they're going to treat you or what they're going to do. And so I did that. And I stopped about 4 or 5 times until I got to Pine Ridge. I had that really bad knot, and I walked into the administration, the police administration, and at that point I asked to talk to the attorney general, and they said, yeah, he's here today. And at that point, he was there for 7 years, I think at the time, 2019. And his name was Scott James, or James Scott. He was the attorney general, I think, for 7 years. He was there. We were gone for 10 years. And so I said, you have at least an hour to talk with me. I need to, get some things out. He said, yeah, sure, come on in. And we sat down in his office, and I just laid it all out there, told him everything that happened to me, everything that happened to my wife, everything, what transpired and what happened. And I was fired. I either had to be a good cop or be a faggot. That's what the chief of police told me back in 2006 and 2009. So I chose to be a faggot. And I'm sorry for that word, but I apologize for saying that out loud. But that's what he said to me. And so, I told all of this to all of our experience with our tribe up until we left in 2009. And he just sat back. He sat back and he was just, listening. And then after I was done, I said, I'm here because, I don't know what anybody wants me to do, but I'm here to do something. And he said, thank you for coming in. And he reached over and shook my hand again. And he said, I've carried this with me, Muff, this whole entire time. And he said, I think this is where it has to come out. And he told me the story of him being involved with another person while he was in law school back east in one of those big fancy law school colleges. And I know he told me the name and I don't remember it, but it was a traumatic experience for him. One of his dorm, remember, you get paired with the freshmen. If you're upper class, you get paired with the freshmen when you're in the dorm in college. And he got paired with a young guy from California who was going to be a lawyer as well. And that boy came out to him that he was gay. And he said, the Christmas break came along, and he said he went home and he said, I'm going to tell my parents. And he said, okay, but he wasn't gay. Scott James, or the attorney general, was not gay. He said, yeah, I'm okay. And I'm open-minded. And so the guy went home to California for Christmas break. And when everybody came back in January, he didn't come back. And he said, well, what's going on? So the dorm matron, when they were cleaning out that guy's stuff, he said, call the mother, do you know their number? And he said, yeah, I do. So he called, and he said, and I carried this with me for all my years and I've never told anybody. He said, but I want you to know that, he said, that really hurt me. That really impacted me. He said the mother, when I called, said that, the guy's name came out to his dad at Christmas dinner, and the dad and him got in an altercation, physical fight. And, the dad was really upset, and, beat him up, and the boy went to back to his room and committed suicide, and fatal, dead, and so he said, and he just at that point just let it all loose. I mean, this is a white guy sitting on the reservation as an attorney general, just lost it across the table from me. And I didn't even know, I'm like, I didn't even know what to do. I'm like, oh no. And, I was looking around for tissue, getting him tissue. And he was just, he carried that, that impacted a lot of people. Homophobia impacted a lot of people way back then, and I don't even know what the year was that he was in college, but just realize this colonization, when it hit in the 1400s, really impacted a positioning and broke our circle. And that's an important factor here. But, he sat down with me, and after he got himself together, he said, this is what we're going to do. And he got all these big binders, man, and big ordinances in each one of them. And we went through there. So I got there around 9:30, 10 in the morning, and I didn't leave out of there until 2 p.m., 2 or 3 p.m. that day. We went through all of that, and he said, I'm going to help you. He said, this is, I needed to release that. Thank you. And he said, this is what we can do. And, going to the committees, doing these actions, and putting down protections. And, for myself, in 2015, when marriage equality became legal in the United States, I called to the Oglala Sioux tribe, my tribe, our tribe, and they denied us a marriage certificate. And I don't know who the chairman of the tribe was at the time, but the whoever their assistant was saying, we don't approve of those kind of things. We're not going to give you, we're not okay with that. And, hung up on me like 5 times, because I called 5 times to our tribe trying to see if I could get a marriage certificate license. And then we called Pennington County, and Pennington County said, yay, come on down. We'll get, we'll marry you. We honor that, it's legal. So we came back here to Rapid, and we got married in 2015. And it hurt because we wanted to marry with our tribe, and we couldn't. So that was an important thing. And I had to explain that to Scott James, the Attorney General, then too. And he said, we're going to put in our ordinance, which is a law. Resolution and ordinance are different. Resolution is a recommendation or support, but ordinance is actually a law, amending and changing something. So, and that took going to committees, that took going to different things. So in July 8th, the marriage equality law became effective for our tribe. We passed that. And this is my little, I call it the Holy Grail, just because I'm, doing that. And then on September 4th of 2019, we passed the hate crime protection law for Native Two-Spirit LGBTQ. So we do have a same-sex marriage and marriage for all LGBTQ on our reservation, and it is ordinances. So the marriage equality ordinance is number 19-24, and the hate crime protection ordinance for Native Two-Spirit LGBTQ and handicap is ordinance number 19-37. And that's completely amended and in the tribe for the Oglala Sioux tribe. And that was one of the things that we had done. And during that same process, we didn't know how to ask for support. So I was doing Facebook Live feeds and asking for people to come and support us, And some people did show up, and some people hung in there, but some would peek in and peek out because of that bashing and that shame still there. But also at that same time, we had one of the tribal council members come out on the tribal council as being a lesbian and having a same-sex partner. And that was amazing. I was shocked. I didn't know, we didn't even know who the tribal council was. We didn't know who the chief of police was. We didn't even know the attorney general. This was 2019, 10 years from the time we left the res. We knew them, but we didn't know that some were on the tribal council. So it's important that, other tribes were calling us, getting in contact with us through Facebook and saying, you know, you guys got to come to our tribe next. And so we did. You know, Crow Creek was really a big pull in that. You know, you guys come here. Da, 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 da. And during this time, you know, we were still, my mom wasn't doing good. She was getting worse. And she was able to see us do and accomplish these in 2019. You know, it was very important. She was so happy and proud of both me and Felipa, and you know, now you guys can come and you guys can get married here. And that was something we was hoping we could do, you know, before she had passed. She had passed away in December of 2019. And we're hurt by that, but we're actually you know, we've healed from that. And last year, my cousin Alicia Musso, who is an out lesbian, married her same-sex partner and is the vice president of the Oglala Sioux tribe now. And she invited us to her wedding on the reservation. So last September, which is kind of, you know, wow, that's the same month that the hate crime protection law went into effect in September 4th of 2019, and she got married on September 2nd of 2023. You know, we got there, and I took at that time, my dad and nephew had made me a eagle staff. You know, that just came to me as well, came to us. And so I took that down and took it to, that was the first event that I've ever taken it to in September of 2023 was there. And we got there and we didn't know how impactful that was going to be, because we got there and, you know, there's a guy, you know, park here, and you know, it was at her house in Porcupine on the reservation in the afternoon, late afternoon. And we parked and, you know, we were sitting there because it was hot. And we were sitting there and we kind of looked at each other, turned off the car, and, you know, I can't even describe it. It was like unreal and surreal. We were there, we were hurt, but we were happy. And it was something that we wish somebody had done for us. And it was just amazing that is able to happen. You know, whatever we couldn't do, they were doing now. And that was just a moment. We sat there and cried for about 5 minutes, man. We had to get ourselves back together, found some water, and had to wash up because we were all decked out. And you know, me and my wife both, we felt that, you know, the intensity of, you know, actually be able to be on the tribe, and the acceptance of having a marriage. And they got a marriage license through the Oglala Sioux tribe. And that was powerful. You don't even know what it meant to us. And we're so grateful and thankful that we could be a part of that and experiencing that too. You know, we were so happy for Alicia, my cousin, and it's amazing. You know, I still call her my little cousin, so I'm trying to keep that out. But and we're so proud of her. We're so proud of her and everything that she's doing for the tribe, and the acceptance and the integration. And so that's something that really meant a lot to us. And at that point, you know, we were doing grants and whatnot, trying to, you know, my wife learned how to do grants. I'm very thankful to have such a, you know, multitasking wife. She, you know, we didn't know anything about this organization or doing anything in the organization, and we learned. And we started getting in contact and connecting with different small little grants. And then a big grant came along, and we were able to, in late 2023, secure in November this office. And we paid for it for a whole year. So, you know, this is a safe space. It's all private foundations. Nothing's government, nothing's federal money, no restrictions. And we're able to meet the needs of every and all, you know, not just Native Two-Spirit, not just LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. You know, we help everyone, not just Native, not just European, not just African American, not just Mexican, we help all. Asian, Filipino, we help all. And that's one of the most important things about Uniting Resilience is, and this is from my heart when I tell you, we're gonna do everything we can that wasn't done for us. And we mean that. We mean that with our whole hearts, that, we're here because nobody was there for us. And that's hard to say because there are some very, very important people in the background that really helped us to uplift us to get to where we're at. And a lot of them were non-native, mostly non-native, and very big supporters of, open-mindedness of the LGBTQ and our elders of the Native Two-Spirit. It's amazing how, at the time when we were doing these Facebook live feeds, when we were going through the committees, I was saying, can somebody just support us and come and, at least say, we got your back, and during those processes, a lot of people dipped. A lot of people said, this is bullshit and you don't do that. And, it was horrific, the backlash that we got because of coming in. But telling them of the violences that were occurring now and even back then, prior to even going there, we had to go to Bear Butte. We took some kidney, we took some tobacco, we took bitter root, we took everything, took off our shoes, and we went there and we gave our sacred mountain everything that happened to us. And that's one of the most important things I want you guys to understand is we had to forgive everything before we actually went on that. And I think that's why I was dry heaving the whole time. I was so scared, but whoever was there lifted me up to keep me going forward and get into that Attorney General's office in 2019 of March or May or April. I don't even remember the date, but I really appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to uplift those ancestors that did bring us to where we're at right now. And that's forgiving every trauma and every experience that we did have with the Oglala tribe and the people that caused those traumas and violences. We forgave that at that Bear Butte, and we left it there, and we gave them food and told them, we're going to go back and do something that we don't even know anything about, and we need your help. And holy beans, they're helping us. And there's stuff that are happening that we, write these grants, or we, ask for help, and it happens. Just like the Two-Spirit powwow last year, we went around to some of the businesses here and got a lot of doors slammed in our face, but we got a lot of them opened up too. And our community at the time was really, we're still in that racism and battling. And that's the first and foremost thing when somebody looks at us is it's a color of our skin. And we have to live with that, where our parents and our grandparents, when they come into Rapid City, you're going to be followed in every business or store that you go into. And a lot of the offices are going to shut the door and say, oh, we can't help you, or stuff like that. And they jack up their rent because we're Native. So just realize that we know and we see all of that. And I don't know if it's because of my experiences. I don't know if it's because of my wife's experiences, our education, but it's that forgiveness and praying and believing that, we do exist, and we are that sacred part of the circle that has to be integrated within our own people to start the healing. And that's the biggest thing that a part of this organization is, alcohol and drug free, and begin your healing process within your own self. Because had we not done that, I don't think we'd be as far as we are right now. We didn't even know what was going to happen in 2019 to 2024, and look at where we're at. It's an amazing thing. And I don't even think we've accomplished anything yet. There's a lot more. There's 75% of the homeless population here in Rapid City identify as Two-Spirit, LGBTQ. And when I say Native Two-Spirit or Indigenous Native Two-Spirit, it's separate from LGBTQ. And that's one of the big things that we also accomplished in 2021. You know, we went to Senator Foster with our hate crime protection law, and she presented it to the state legislation to amend the hate crime law and institute Native American Two-Spirit and LGBTQ. And the legislation at the time and all the time is Republican heavy. We're a red state. And to say that, you know, they did everything they can to get Native American taken out of there. So they said, you know, 50-50 chance we will pass this law if you take Native Two-Spirit out, and we'll just leave it as LGBTQ. You know, and Senator Foster had called us, and we were coming back on the interstate, and burp, we stopped short and went off into the road, and she said, you know, Muffie, Felipa, we need to find a definition, or do you want to take it off? And so we got on a conference call with people like Chase Iron Eyes, Candy Brings Plenty. We brought in Bev Little Thunder, Marlon Fitzko. These are different, the elders. Marlon Fitzko is an elder Two-Spirit. Bev Little Thunder is an elder Two-Spirit from Hunkpapa, Standing Rock, and Marlon's from Idaho. Rest in peace, he had passed. But you know, they got on the phone with Senator Foster at the time, and you know, Chase said, well, just take it off and we could put it on later. Candy said, yeah, just take it off and let them pass it. And I said, well, it's a 50-50 chance that they are going to pass it if they take that off. They won't even commit to passing it with LGBTQ, you know? And so they said, well, no, just go with it. And, you know, it only took me and Felipa about 5 seconds on that interstate to look at each other and said, heck no. You know, that's not what we started out doing. And we are Native Two-Spirit. We are separate from LGBTQ. We are Native Two-Spirit is non-gender. It's all gender, you know, under that same thing of, it's like they call it an umbrella. They say it's an umbrella term, but it's not. You know, we are different from, we're more cultural and spiritual. And that's what the definition ended up being, because after that conversation, Felipa and I contacted all the elders, even in Canada. They were on the phone. There was about 7 of them, conference call with Senator Foster. Within like 5-10 minutes of that conversation, they all came together. Some of them prayed with her. Some of them sang songs for her from different tribes. These are Native Two-Spirit elders in the United States and Canada. And they told her in the late 1980s there in Canada, they started talking about that and they wanted that separation. So they asked us, you know, we're proud of you girls for doing this, and we would like for you guys to go forward and really clarifying that Indigenous Native Two-Spirit does need to be separate and include that in that legislation. So we did that. You know, they got on the phone and they told her, this is the definition, this is what we want. It wasn't me and Felipa that did that definition. We presented it there, and we got the people together that actually started talking about that terminology way back in the 1980s and early 90s. You know, in Canada and United States, they were already talking about that. And those were all the people that were on the phone with Senator Foster. And so we're very proud of that, because out of the 50 states of the United States, South Dakota is the only state that has a definition for Native Two-Spirit. You know, and we had to research that. We went through all the anthropology, all the books that were ever written and studied back in the early 60s and 70s. And we even contacted a son that was in London, and his dad had passed, and he was in his 70s or 60s. And he had said, you know, my dad never, ever had a definition for, you know, Native, the cultures that he experienced. And most of them were like gay men, or, you know, he came along with some transgender people, and there's no term, you know, and we went through all the books that were written and there was none. And so as far as we can honestly say, that terminology was in SB 166 in 2021, which was presented by Senator Foster. So that's something that we can, as Indigenous people, be proud of, that we stuck our grounds, and we, even though the legislation was not passed, it was defeated. You know, we had 11 for and like 18 against. We had some Republicans, because I think at the time there was only 7 Democrats, and we had some Republicans vote for us as well during that legislation. So that's a big turning point as well. You know, we got to get up and had a lot of people present, and we made it to the second reading, and then it got to the Senate floor, and that's where it got defeated. And there was a lot of conversation over that. So we're very happy that we're going to be presenting in 2025 legislation. So we're going to need all your support. Come into our office anytime, and we will need your support in presenting this hate crime legislation once again, because South Dakota does not have any protections for LGBTQ. They do have policies and procedures, which that Constitution sometimes does help, but we all know what that Constitution is really there for, and it's an old rich white man. That's the only protection it provides, is for an old rich white man. So we're at that point now where, yes, we do need to go there, and we do need to ask for these laws. That's people talking about it in their minds, and, you know, opening up a little bit, because it's important to try to establish that for generations that ain't even born yet. You know, Felipa has 6. We have 6 grandchildren, and I know a lot of you, you know, have great grandchildren that are still coming, that are not, they're still big babies yet, and what's going to be here for them. And I sure as heck want to tell you from our hearts that we don't want them to experience what we've experienced, what other generations are experiencing, are what's still somewhat there. We want to have protections throughout, and have the bullying stop, and get to the education, get to healthcare, the medical, the law enforcement. We would like for all these protections to be inputted and integrated, and let our children know that, you know, this Indigenous Native Two-Spirit is a non-gendering, and it's a spiritual and cultural distinction, and it is separate from a LGBTQ organization. You know, LGBTQ is mostly considered, you know, white, Caucasian, European, and African American also have separated and are doing their own, you know, BIPOC, I think it's called, people of color. And so we just want you to know that that's something that was a part of our cultural way prior to the 1400s, when the boats arrived here and this colonization took over. And we were some of the ones that were first taken out. And the most important impact that I can tell you from today was, you know, those ancestors are here, and they're pushing us to where we're at right now. The ones that had gotten horrifically mauled by dogs and were considered the homosexuals in those tribes in the late 1400s, when those boats arrived, and they seen that spiritual connection, they seen that cultural mediation, they seen how Two-Spirit people were, I'm calling them Two-Spirit people now, but I don't know what they were called back then. There's no books to that effect, because they wiped them out. And the Two-Spirit people back then were that important link to our circle, Hochoka. And it's important that you take that from whatever you feel about, you know, these colors, Native Two-Spirit, or LGBTQ, you know, the trans flags as well. stop feeling that way and realizing that this has been our existence, and that's why the ancestors are helping us in this manner. I believe in that, because we do have spiritual gifts. And I myself, had a dream back in 2012, and I'm doing it now, water ceremonies. There's a lot of things that I pushed aside growing up. Even taking out the spiritual plate when I was like 7 years old, when they started giving you the spiritual plate. I used to, my grandpa, he said, "What's going on, Takoja?" And, I said, "I don't want to go. I don't want to take that." And he said, "Why? That's a good honor." And I said, "I know, but I see people when I take it out, they start coming and they come to it." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Come on, I'll take it out with you." And we were walking out to one of, there was some trees out there, and, there was a guy sitting there. And he was holding his knee, and he was, he had long hair. His hair was long, and he had on an old dusky leather. And I said, "Grandpa, do you see that guy sitting there?" And my grandpa really looked, and he was looking, and he said, "No, I don't. What guy? There's nobody out here." And I said, "Grandpa, do you see those other two people walking over there? And there's people coming." And so, see, we have those things, and when there's a lot of two-spirit people that know this, and I'm saying this, and it's hard to explain, but we do have, because in those 1400s and 1500s, they were calling people witchcraft and witches and all different kind of horrific names, but magic. And, colonial people want to say that it's a bad thing, witchery. This Donald Trump talked about all these this is a witch hunt. Well, witches were hunted down and killed because they were seen as a source. And remember that we are sources, we are roots, and that's an important factor as far as all of this is concerned. And so I just want you to know I support you, I believe in you, and I know who you are, and I know who I am. And I really thank my mom for making that change and that difference for Uniting Resilience. She would have been so proud. I had one of my aunties come during our grand opening. Her name was I call her my mom now, my second mom, Norma Rendon. She came and she spoke, and she just I'm a little toughie. I'm a little toughie, and she grabbed me and she said, "Muffie, your mom would be so proud." And that just tore me apart. I just cried. So I want to thank Norma Rendon for really being there for us. Since my mom passed away, she's really stepped up and been there and has really supported us in every aspect of this journey. It's a fantastic journey. So I'm very happy to, we have pamphlets on trans. We have a 100% Native Two-Spirit board, and they're all Two-Spirit, and they're all Indigenous Natives. And we also have Wildbriety meetings every Wednesday nights at 5:30 here at our office, 705 East Watertown Street. So I'm very, very happy to announce, we started doing the Wildbriety, and those are some fantastic stories. We're really participating with every action that comes in. We're going to have our Two-Spirit powwow is June. We pushed it to 3 days now. We have an event, a benefit concert on June 28th. We have our powwow on June 29th. And we have a drag bingo on June 30th, and from 1 to 4 on Sunday. And that's going to be huge because we're getting big fireworks, big giant displays that we're going to be giving away as bingo prizes, also meat packages, food stuff. So watch our website. There is a save the date poster out now. So we welcome everybody and all. And we're, like I said, you don't have to have regalia to come and dance. It's a traditional, what people colonial say, traditional powwow, but ours is a gathering of everybody to get together in a safe area, and we make sure that it's safe. It's going to be at the old Civic Center. It's called the Monument, and it's at the Rushmore Hall. So we look forward to all of you coming out. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really, I just appreciate the realities that you shared with us and the things that our queer community faces and continues to face. And I know we're at the hour, but if you could just close, I would love to hear what advice you would give to relatives who want to support queer, indigenous, two-spirit, LGBT youth. What advice would you give, especially for our Native relatives?
The biggest things I would say is everybody is who they are and respect that. And when we all come from water within our mothers, and we're all born here for a purpose. Everybody that comes from a mother is born with a purpose, and always rely on that within to believe in your own self and go and pray at our sacred mountain and sacred places, because that's where we get our uplifting powers, and it's important to maintain. And if you're just learning the culture, good. I respect and honor everybody that wants to learn back, because I know there was a lot of adoptions out there that they were off of the reservation and didn't learn their culture, but learn it. It's important, and it's helpful in these cultural and spiritual ways. And alcohol and drug free is the most important thing. And we really promote, learning that everybody is different, and respecting our differences is the most important thing, and get along. And if you don't know about differences, then ask us, or ask somebody that, can get you that information, because educating each other is important, and it's healing. And I really hope that we can all heal to get to a better place.
Cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank
Thank
you.
you, Clementine. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. And I really appreciate everyone that joined us here in the Zoom room and who joined us on Facebook Live. Thank you.